Donald Trump, a name that evokes admiration and repulsion in equal measure, a figure that has left an undeniable mark on modern history. But what if, behind his controversial actions and fiery speeches, there lay a prophetic echo that transcends the boundaries of politics? This is an exploration of the intriguing similarities between his actions and the biblical prophecies of the Antichrist.
We will make America great again. God bless you.
Before we continue, I would kindly ask you to subscribe to the channel so that we can spread the Creator's message to even more people. Thank you. The world has always been full of enigmas that defy human understanding, but few are as fascinating and feared as the figure of the Antichrist. Since the earliest records of the Scriptures, prophets and theologians have spoken of a time when a leader would arise, captivating crowds with seductive words and powerful acts, promising salvation and peace while sowing destruction. Who would this leader be? How would he present himself to the world? Could he already be among us, hidden under the facade of power and influence? When we look at the events of the modern era, controversial figures emerge, and with them, the inevitable question, who really is the man behind the mask? With his fiery speeches, bold decisions, and a legion of passionate supporters, Donald Trump stood out not just as a leader, but as a political and cultural phenomenon. But are these the characteristics of a visionary or of someone destined to fulfill dark prophecies? During his presidency, we witnessed a world divided, alliances questioned, and a new dominant rhetoric. Many wondered, is there a parallel between Trump and the Antichrist described in the Bible? Revelation speaks of a time when the Antichrist would open his mouth in blasphemies and seek to deceive the nations. Revelation 13:5-7. What if the echoes of that prophecy resonate in our own days? What if the decisions that seemed strategic carry a deeper, darker meaning? Is Trump just a controversial leader or something more? The term Antichrist refers to a prophetic figure widely mentioned in eschatological interpretations of the New Testament, especially in the epistles of John and the book of Revelation. The word itself comes from the Greek antichristos, which literally means opposed to or substitute for Christ. The Antichrist is traditionally seen as a powerful leader who will arise at the end of times to deceive humanity, establishing a reign of deception and blasphemy before the second coming of Jesus Christ. The Antichrist is described as someone who will use charisma and influence to attract the masses and usher in an era of chaos and domination. In 1 John 2:18 we read, "Dear children, this is the last hour. And as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come. This is how we know it is the last hour. The Apostle John warns that there will be many false leaders preceding the coming of the Antichrist, but there will be one who will stand out for the extent of his power and wickedness." In Revelation 13:5-7, we have a more detailed vision. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. This passage illustrates the universal power and the ability of the Antichrist to promote persecution and present himself as an unquestionable and feared leader. Prophetic characteristics of the Antichrist. According to the Scriptures, the Antichrist will be a charismatic leader. Daniel 8:23 speaks of a king of fierce countenance who will understand dark sentences. This is interpreted as someone with political acumen and charisma sufficient to unite and influence nations. Will blaspheme against God. He will utter blasphemies and openly challenge the true religion, leading many to worship him or follow his teachings. Revelation 13:5-6. Will promote deception and false promises. 2 Thessalonians 2:9-10 states, "The coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. He will use all sorts of displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie and all the ways that wickedness deceives those who are perishing. Will seek global domination. His authority will be recognized in all nations, Revelation 13:7. Will bring persecution and division. His leadership will be associated with an era of great tribulation and persecution of those who remain faithful to God. Trump and the Antichrist hypothesis, signs and similarities. It is important to note that any connection between Donald Trump and the figure of the Antichrist is purely speculative and based on subjective observations and theological interpretations. Nevertheless, some of the actions, characteristics, and events during his political career have sparked interest in eschatological discussions. Charisma and political rise. Before his political career, Donald Trump was already a well-known and charismatic figure due to his involvement in media and business. When he ran for the presidency of the United States, many were surprised by how quickly he garnered a fervent base of supporters. Trump's ability to mobilize large crowds and inspire unwavering loyalty reflects the biblical description of a leader who draws crowds with powerful words. Controversial speech and arrogance. Throughout his presidency and in public speeches, Trump was often described as someone who made provocative comments and was often seen as arrogant. Revelation 13:5 describes the Antichrist as one who uttered proud words and blasphemies. Trump's statements, frequently criticizing and challenging established institutions and religious leaders, have been viewed by some as indicative of behavior mirroring what would be expected of the Antichrist. Pursuit of personal glory. A striking feature of Trump is his constant pursuit of recognition and personal glory. The Antichrist, as described in Daniel 11:36, will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and will say unheard of things against the God of gods. This self-exaltation and desire for recognition above all reflect traits often associated with prophetic figures described in the Scriptures. Division and discord. Trump's presidency was marked by significant political and social polarization. This resembles the description of the Antichrist in Matthew 24:24, which speaks of leaders who will deceive, if possible, even the elect. Trump's rhetoric, often polarizing public opinion, can be seen as parallel to the tactics of the Antichrist to create division and confusion. Relationship with Israel. An interesting curiosity is that the Antichrist, according to eschatological interpretations, will have a particular relationship with Israel. Trump was the president who recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved the U.S. embassy there, a move with significant political and religious impact. Some see this as a possible parallel to the prophetic actions the Antichrist would undertake regarding Israel, especially in terms of treaties and alliances. Global support and rejection. While the Antichrist is described as having global authority, he will also face opposition from many. Trump experienced a similar situation during his presidency, being loved by some and hated by others, both within and outside the United States. This polarity and the way he was portrayed by different segments of society and the media resonate with the complexity of leadership and image the Antichrist would have. It is crucial to reiterate that the idea of Trump being the Antichrist is a hypothesis and not a categorical statement. The Scriptures provide broad and, in many cases, symbolic descriptions of the Antichrist, which can be interpreted in various ways. The similarities highlighted here are observations based on parallels that scholars, theorists, and curious individuals have pointed out. The Bible warns in 1 John 4:1, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." Ultimately, associating Trump or any contemporary leader with the figure of the Antichrist is an exercise in interpretation that should be approached with caution and skepticism, recognizing the limitations of our understanding and the complex nature of biblical prophecies. Eschatology remains a fascinating and often debated field that inspires reflections on morality, power, and faith in the most unexpected contexts.